Boys, what is good? It's Herm. We're here with a little laid-back NBA mock draft stream. You know how it is. We're trying to hit 1K today. That's the goal. We're at 990. We're only 10 subs away. We are trying to hit 1,000 subscribers. So, if you're watching and you want to subscribe, think about doing that. That's the goal here, is to hit 1K. So, hey, I appreciate it, Armani. Thank you. Thank you for saying I'm the man. But I want to shamelessly plug here for a second. Yeah, go Blazers. They're going to have a big offseason, bro. They're going to have a very big offseason. The Blazers are going to make big moves, I can already tell. But let's hit 1K today so I can pay for a car without going to work at the grocery store. That's the move. College kid, you know it. You know how it is. You know what it's like. But let's just get into it. So, the Orlando Magic are on the clock with the first overall pick. And for me, this comes down to three guys. There's only three guys here that you can really be interested in taking. And that is Chet Holmgren, the power forward / center out of Gonzaga. Jabari Smith Jr., the power forward floor spacer out of Auburn. Or Paolo Banchero, the, kind of initiator of an offense, I guess, primary scorer out of Duke. So basically, it's three power forwards. It's three guys that are going to come in and be very good year one. I don't think any of these top three are going to take super long to develop. And when I'm looking at the Magic roster here, there's some things I think they need. But more than anything, I think they need a primary offensive guy. I see the rumors are out there. There are people saying, that they're going to go with Jabari Smith Jr. They should pick Jabari. But Jabari's really an off-ball guy. He's probably not going to have the ball in his hands all the time. He's probably not going to be your lead kind of scorer guy. But that's okay. He's going to be a great player, but I just don't think that's the pick for them. So I'm going to switch it up here. You could probably tell by the thumbnail, it kind of spoiled it a little bit. But I'm going to take Paolo Banchero out of Duke. They have Cole Anthony as kind of a primary scoring guy, but I just don't think he's a number one scorer in this league right now, how it is. So for me, I think it's Banchero, just because of his ability to create his own shot, score for himself, just be a really excellent scorer of the basketball, and I think he's going to do that. So for me, it's Paolo Banchero out of Duke, the physical guy. He'll take you one-on-one, whether it's face-up, whether it's back to the basket. He's not afraid to shoot it. He needs to work on his shot a little bit, but he's not afraid to do it. But for me, I think it's Banchero at 1. I think he's the best fit for the Magic. All right, the Oklahoma City Thunder on the clock here, and at this point, they're looking at it. They say the guy that I think is the best guy in the draft, Jabari Smith Jr., is sitting there at number 2. Do they take Jabari? Do they take Chet Holmgren? I think they have some options. I don't think there's necessarily they have to go either way. But if I'm them, honestly, it's a tough decision because they're both really great players. But for me, I think it's Chet. I think no matter what happens at 1, whether it's Paolo or Jabari, I think they're going to take Chet Holmgren. I think the best thing there is they can get a guy that can play both power forward or center and can be a really good rim protector. When I think of Jabari defensively, he's a really good perimeter defender. He can take you outside. He can guard basically the 1 through 4, but I don't love the idea of Jabari kind of guarding you in the post. So I think Chet Holmgren and his ability to protect the rim is something that the Thunder here will be really interested in, because they already have Lou Dort, a guy who can guard on the perimeter really, really well. So I'm not super keen on them taking Jabari, just because I think they need rim protection more. So for me anyways, I'm going to go Chet Holmgren. 4 blocks a game last year at Gonzaga, shot almost 40% from 3. So while I think Jabari is the best shooter in the draft class, the best floor spacer, I think Chet is still a very, very good shooter of the basketball, and I think he's the pick here at number 2. All right, the Houston Rockets are on the clock here at 3, and even though, Chet Holmgren is gone, even though Jabari Smith Jr. is on the board, I think they probably look at a guy like Jaden Ivey. I don't know if they're necessarily going to take Jaden Ivey because of a guy like Kevin Porter Jr. Wow, their depth charts on here are garbage. They're so bad. But it gets me the players I need. They have Jalen Green, who's a primary scorer. I think this is great for them. I don't think Paolo Banchero is the dream fit just because he is going to want the ball in his hands. KPJ is going to want the ball in his hands. So is Jalen Green. So for me anyways, I think Jabari or Chet are both better fits in Houston than a guy like Paolo is. So I think this is the dream scenario for Houston. I think Jabari Smith is the move. I think they really believe in Kevin Porter Jr. as well as Jalen Green. So for me anyway, I'm going to go with Jabari Smith Jr. Can space the floor, but doesn't need the ball in his hands all the time. Can be kind of a secondary shooting scoring guy. So I think putting Jabari out there next to Jalen Green is a better fit than the other guys on the board. Honestly, I think we know who the first three guys are going to be. So for me anyway, the draft really starts at pick number 4. I have a video out from a couple days ago. I think that they're going to look to trade pick number 4. I've seen rumors like that all over the place. We saw it with the Tyrese Halliburton trade for Domantas Sabonis. They really want to compete right now. I believe that the owner has an ultimatum out on Mike Brown that he has to make the playoffs year 1. Is he going to make the playoffs? I don't know, but they're kind of pushing it that he needs to make the playoffs this year. So they're going to want a player that can help them win now, but they might even trade the pick. Excuse me. I wouldn't be surprised if they trade the pick at all. But if they stay here, I think the most NBA-ready guy out of this group is Keegan Murray, the power forward out of Iowa. Is kind of like a non-ball dominant scorer. Like, he doesn't need the ball in his hands to score, and I think that's the best thing for Sacramento here, because they have De'Aaron Fox, they have Domantas Sabonis, they have guys that can score, they have all-stars on the team. De'Aaron Fox never been an all-star, near all-star player. Domantas Sabonis, 2-time all-star. So for me anyway, I think it's Keegan Murray. I really do. I think Shaedon Sharpe is probably the highest upside here. I think Jaden Ivey is my best player right here. But for me anyway, I think Keegan Murray's the move. I just really do. Keegan Murray, can play the 4, can play the 3 even a little bit, can even play some small ball 5, but I think his fit next to Domantas Sabonis is great. Sabonis more of an old school center. Keegan Murray can stretch the floor. He can score off of cuts. He can score off of, not a ton of moves, but just really simple stuff, and he's going to be able to do that. And I like Keegan Murray here. I think he's the most ready to contribute right now, and I think he's also the best fit on this Kings team. And now the Pistons are on the clock with pick number 5. And this is one where it's tough because there's 2 guys right here you're looking at. You're looking at Jaden Ivey and you're looking at Shaedon Sharpe. 2 players that are very, very good and will be very good for the future. I think both of them are good fits with Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham is a guy who's going to break you down. He's going to be slow. He's going to be methodical. He's going to get his own shot, but he's not going to blow by you. He's not going to, kind of destroy you on a blow-by. It's just not how Cade plays. So I think there's a little bit of kind of yin and yang with either Ivy or Shaedon Sharpe because of their explosiveness. Jaden Ivey more, kind of forward, laterally explosive. Not laterally, sorry, downhill explosive. He's going to get out in the fast break. A lot of people like to compare Jaden Ivey to Ja Morant, and I think it's a pretty good comparison. But Shaedon Sharpe getting a lot of Anthony Edwards kind of type comparison, and his ability to shoot the 3 and his confidence in the 3, as well as elevate, finish above the rim, finish through contact. But for me, with the mystery, we just don't really know what Shaedon Sharpe is going to be because he didn't play in college at all. We saw none of him in college. So I'd be a little concerned about that whole aspect. And for me, a guy that was great last year in college, averaged over 20 points per game, was one of the best players on one of the best teams in the country. I'm going to go Jaden Ivey out of Purdue. I've said this the whole time. I think Ivey is the best fit in Detroit just because of his fit with Cade Cunningham. I love the idea of a Cade-Ivey backcourt for the future. I think Ivey would be the 2 guard, Cade would be the 1 guard going forward, and it would be really, really solid and super fun to see there in Detroit. All right, the Indiana Pacers are on the clock at number 6, and there's a lot of things they could do. But for me, there's a clear best player on the board right now, so I'm just going to go kind of kind of no-brainer selection almost. And I'm going to take Shaden Sharp out of Kentucky. They have Tyrese Halliburton. They have Miles Turner, who it seems like they want to continue to build around. It seems like they do want to keep Miles Turner on the team long term, and I'm excited for that because he can space the floor. He's one of the best modern big men in the game today. He's really good at that. And I think Shaden Sharp is a good fit. They're a team that, is happy where they are. They're in a rebuild. They're going to accept more of the rebuild, I think. But getting Shaden Sharp there alongside Halliburton, a pass-first guy that can get Sharp the ball, can help initiate some of his offense for him, I think would be really great. And I think Sharp is the perfect fit here for Indiana at 6, and they're very lucky he fell to them. All right, the Portland Trailblazers are on the clock at number 7. In a couple other of my mock drafts, I've given them A.J. Griffin out of Duke. Shot over 50% on catch-and-shoot threes last year. Shot like 45% from 3 in general. But missing 2 years of high school with injury is a little concerning to me. I'd be a little worried about the injury concerns dating back to high school. And though he was healthy this year, I just don't feel great about it long term. And yeah, Armani, I do agree with you. It does kind of feel like this draft has a clear-cut top 6. There are some good players here, and we could see the Blazers try to move up. I made a video the other day about them trying to trade the pick. I know it's something they've looked into because they want to compete right now around Damian Lillard, so they're going to try to do that right now. But I agree with you. There is a top 6. I think it drops off a little bit here, but there are some very good players on the board, and with Damian Lillard on the team, with Simons on the team, I want to go more around like a kind of small forward type, and a guy that I think can play that is Benedict Mathurin out of Arizona. Was just a pure shooter last year at Arizona, was a great bucket getter of his own, throws some risky passes, will have some turnovers at times, but is really great at getting out, on the fast break, and finishing on that end, finishing through contact, being able to shoot the ball. So I really like Mathurin here, and I think he's the fit for Portland at 7. All right, the New Orleans Pelicans are on the clock with pick number 8, and there's plenty of things they could do. I mean, Griffin would be great as a floor spacer with Zion there. Jalen Duren, I don't think it makes a ton of sense. Dyson Daniels as a point guard makes some sense just because I don't know how great you feel about C.J. McCollum being your long-term point guard. I think a lot of people would rather have C.J. McCollum as a shooting guard. Yes, Raul, this is OBS. I am using OBS, yes. I've used Streamlabs in the past for Twitch, but I just feel like OBS is really good. I record on it, and I like to separate that. It's better for YouTube, so I'm glad you like the content. I appreciate that. But again, back to the pick. I think this comes down to 3 players for me. I think it's either A.J. Griffin, it's either Johnny Davis, or it's either Dyson Daniels. I've never been a huge Dyson Daniels guy, but he's rising from the NBA Draft Combine. He's one of the guys that's rising, and he's going to rise on my board a little bit just because he tested in even taller than people thought. I don't remember quite how tall it was, but it was either like 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". Like he's a tall point guard, and he's going to go out there. He's got a great wingspan. He has a lot of solid, valuable skills. He can play make. He can pass the ball. He can shoot it a little bit. It's coming along. He can pass. He can rebound. He can defend. So I think the shooting is the biggest thing with me with Dyson. I don't think he's ever going to be a great scorer, but he's really solid at pretty much everything else. But I just don't think this is the spot for him. And I'm going to go Johnny Davis out of Wisconsin. Like I said, there are some injury concerns with A.J. Griffin, and that is really sticking with me. So I'm going to go with Johnny Davis, a guy who can just be a natural scorer for you. Averaged 20 points a game this year at Wisconsin. Can score in the mid-range, can attack the rim. Is also a really upside plus defender, which is great to see. Really, really solid defender. Fits what the Pelicans are doing right now and gives them a potential high upside scoring guy. Can maybe even come in, put up 12 points a game his rookie year. I really like the idea of Johnny Davis going to a solid team like the Pelicans because he doesn't have to rush. He doesn't have to put up too many shots. He can slowly develop into what he's going to be. All right, the San Antonio Spurs are on the clock with pick number 9. And there are some options here. If we look at their team, I mean, right now, the best players they have, DeJounte Murray and Keldon Johnson, I would say, are their two best guys. I also really like Jakob Poeltl for them. A lot of people are kind of trying to suggest that they should draft a center, whether it be Duren, Mark Williams, one of the guys like that. I really just think Jakob Poeltl is a good center. I don't see the need for them to go center here. I don't think it's really something they have to do. So for me anyway, I'm probably not going to go center here. So that leaves some wing guys, and I think wing is probably the move. I like DeJounte, so I feel really no temptation to go Dyson Daniels. So for me, it's going to be a wing guy. And I'm not quite sure who I want that to be. Sohan is a really good player as a defender. Tari Eason is super athletic. I really like Malachi Branham out of Ohio State with his length and his ability to score. He's shooting up draft boards after the combine. Malachi Branham is a guy who's really going uphill, and I think could end up being, like a really solid player in the NBA, even like a almost go-to guy. But because they have so many shooting guards already, I don't really like the idea of going Branham. And I think Agbaji is a guy who's really sound right now in what he's doing. But for me, I'm going to go A.J. Griffin out of Duke. His ability to shoot the ball is too intriguing. He's too good of a shooter for me to pass it up, to just say like, oh, he's just too injury prone. I can't ignore the shooting. 50% on catch and shoot threes is ridiculous, and I just can't turn that down. The defense is going to get better. I really do believe that. I think the defense can improve. It wasn't the best at Duke this year, but there were times where he's really, really good defensively, and I think he can come in and be a good defender as well as being a great shooter. So I love his fit for San Antonio here at pick number 9. But let's get back to it here. With the Wizards on the clock at pick number 10, there are some options. There are some legitimate options with guys hitting free agency. I think Jalen Duren's an option. I think Dyson Daniels is an option with their steep need for point guards. They need point guards really badly. It's really their biggest need by a lot. So I think right now it comes down to Duren or Daniels for me, and I'm going to go Dyson Daniels. Who do they even have at point guard on the roster right now? It's bad. I know it's bad. Cassius Winston, Raul Neto, and Ish Smith are their point guards on the team right now. So I'm going to go with a guy that can defend, can pass the ball, and can rebound. Dyson Daniels out of the G League Ignite. A lot of people are really high on him. Again, I'm not quite as high on him as some other people, but I still think he's the move here. I think Daniels goes here at number 10. All right, the New York Knicks are on the clock at pick number 11, and there are multiple things they could do. The stars are kind of gone at this point. Johnny Davis is gone, A.J. Griffin is gone, Benedict Mathurin is gone. I think they really would have liked a wing like that, but they're just not available anymore. So I don't think they probably go wing then. I think they probably go center, just because Mitchell Robinson's going to be a free agent. Nerlens Noel can't really stay healthy. So for me, I think this is a no-brainer move. I think it's Jalen Duren. I've compared him to Bam Adebayo in his ability to guard basically the 1 through the 5. I don't know if he can guard 1s for sure, but he can definitely guard the 2 through 5 and do a really good job at it. Jalen Duren has really impressed me in his 1 year at Memphis. Super athletic, very good rim protector, very good shot blocker, interior defender, can finish well around the rim, and he's a pretty solid vertical threat as well. So I really like Jalen Duren, and if you're looking for a high-efficiency guy to replace Mitchell Robinson and what he does for them, I think Jalen Duren is about as high efficiency as you can get. So I really like him here, and the athleticism just screams upside. He's going to be a good defender, and I think if he can even get like a 10 to 15 footer, he's going to be a really, really good NBA player. All right, the Oklahoma City Thunder are on the clock with pick number 12. And at number 2, I got them Chet Holmgren, a guy that can play either center or power forward. So I think here you're either looking for a power forward or center, because they already have some other positions filled. With Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, they have that spot filled up at the point guard. Josh Giddey's filled at the point or the 2 guard, whatever you want to say he is. And Lou Dort has that 3 spot locked down. They also have Trey Mann off the bench, so I don't really think it's likely that they end up going guard at all. So I think it's a forward here. Ousmane Dieng is really interesting to me. Mark Williams, I think, is the best center available at this point by a pretty good margin. Jeremy Sohan's there. And at this point, I'm going to go with best player available, and to me, that's Jeremy Sohan out of Baylor. For a team that, you know, has decent defenders already in Lou Dort and even Kenny Hustle. Kenrich Williams is a really good defender. Adding both Jeremy Sohan and Chet Holmgren is huge. Chet Holmgren, arguably the best rim protector in this draft class, as well as being able to space the floor, and Jeremy Sohan is probably the best perimeter defender in this draft class. Can guard just about every position. We saw it at Baylor. He would guard fives. He would guard, you know, kind of small guards, and he wouldn't get beat athletically. He's really, really solid at that. I like Sohan a lot. He's a dog defensively. And, you know, while he doesn't have a ton of offensive upside, I think the defensive upside is just so obvious it's hard to ignore. And even though, again, the lack of offense might concern some people, I've seen a lot of comparisons to Draymond Green, to Ben Simmons, and his ability to kind of play point forward as well as being a great defender. So I think Sohan and Chet is a great draft so far for the Thunder. The Hornets are on the clock at pick number 13, and this is great for them in my opinion because Mark Williams is still on the board. I heard somebody saying that he tested at 7'2" at the combine, which is even better than he expected. I heard someone say he had at least a 7'5" wingspan. He is almost the Mo Bamba of this draft. You know, he's never going to space the floor like that, but with his ability, yeah, I see that, Joseph. I was talking about that with another viewer, that it feels like there's a clear-cut top 6 in this year's draft, so they really have to hope one of those guys slip. I don't think they'll get quite that lucky. I think they'll probably be going between, you know, Benedict Mathurin, A.J. Griffin, Jalen Duren type guys, but hopefully the Blazers can get someone really solid like that. And, yeah, I appreciate you for watching, man. At pick number 13, again, I think the Hornets have needed a center forever. Montrezl Harrell's a free agent. Mason Plumlee's cool. Like, he gets rebounds, but he's just not that guy offensively. And I think Mark Williams is going to be really solid. We saw it with Duke in the tournament. Was really, really good for Duke in the tournament. Was hard to stop offensively, whether it be on the offensive glass or just going to work in the post. Like, Mark Williams is really, really good for them. And I love his fit on the Hornets team. He's a really good vertical threat. He's a good rim protector. I've seen a lot of comparisons to Clint Capella, but I think he's a little more athletic, and I think he has a little more offensive upside. So I think he's a good fit for the Hornets here, and I'd love to see him go here at 13. I think he's a lottery-level guy. Yeah, Eason is a guy that I think is going to be there. Like, I don't know if he'll last till 17. I don't think Tari Eason will last that long. To be honest with you, Joseph, I don't think Tari Eason is going to last till 17 just because of his athleticism. I think a team might take a flyer on him late lottery, and if a team doesn't reach on Eason in the lottery, he'll easily go mid-teens. I don't know if he lasts to 17. I think ESPN has him ranked a little low. I really like Eason a lot, but who knows exactly where Eason's going to end up. But again, I think Eason's better than 17. But for the Cavs here at 14, I think they have to go guard here. Like, I don't know if Colin Sexton's going to be back, and even if he is, I don't know if Colin Sexton is the same player he was before he went down with an injury. I think that's a legitimate concern. The Colin Sexton might not be the same player. So if I'm them, I think Okoro's been a little disappointing. So I'm looking for a guard that I can fit in the backcourt next to Darius Garland. And for me, that just it has to be Malachi Branham at this point. Like I said, he's climbing up draft boards because of his length, because of his projectable upside. I think he's going to be a very good NBA player. We saw it throughout his time at Ohio State. He just got better. He can create his own shot. He shot pretty well from 3 in college, but to be honest, we didn't really see the three-pointers before he got to college. It was pretty exclusive to his time at Ohio State. In high school, Malachi Branham was not a very good three-point shooter, so I think there's some legitimate concerns about that lasting. But again, I think he's the best player here. and I think he's probably the best fit for the Cavs, just because he can play some defense with the length. He projects as a high upside defender, as well as being a versatile scorer for them. So I think him next to Garland would be an interesting backcourt pairing going forward. All right. The Charlotte Hornets are back on the clock at 15, and the guy that Joseph was talking about, I think Tari Eason goes here. I don't know if they love PJ Washington. I really don't. It looks like they've tried to move PJ Washington in kind of a few consecutive off seasons now, and if they can move PJ, I think they're going to. So I think PJ Washington to me is probably on the way out. Miles Bridges feels like a small forward. Filling the center spot with Mark Williams kind of feels like the power forward spot will be left open. And for me, I think Eason can slot right in at their power forward and play power forward for this Hornets team. He's super athletic. I think he fits really well with LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball could be throwing up lobs to Tari Eason. And a Hornets team that gets continually beat in the play-in because of bad defense, I think bringing in two guys in Mark Williams and Tari Eason really helps your upside on that end and really drastically improves what you're going to do defensively, and the athleticism there is just really obvious. So I think Tari Eason there is a high upside guy, and I really like him for the Hornets at 15. All right, we are halfway through the first round of this mock draft. So if you have any questions about any of my picks, you let me know down below. Let me know if you like the fits of these picks. Let me know what you have any questions about me on my road to 1,000 here. What is my favorite team? I'm a Lakers guy. I just am. I was a huge Kobe fan. I know people always say Lakers fans are bandwagons, but I live in New York. I'm a Bills fan. I've been a Lakers fan since I was about 4 years old because I was such a big Kobe guy. So I was always a Lakers fan just because of Kobe, and I stuck with him after. There were a few rough years in there, and this year especially was rough as well, but coming off the chip a few years ago, I feel solid about the team. So, yeah, we're halfway through the first round, like I was saying. So if you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you're not subscribed, please do so on the road to 1K. I hope to hit it tonight, but if not, it should be in the next couple of days. I'm talking a lot, but that's probably the job, right? So, I'm going to set a timer for 1 minute. I'm going to take a 1 minute break here, and then after that, we can get back into it. But if you guys have any questions, this would be your time to let me know, and we're going to get back to the mock draft in a minute. But yeah, we're going to take that minute break because, you know, I value my voice and being able to talk. So we're going to do that now. Yeah. During this time, I'd like to let you guys know how much I really appreciate all the support. I didn't think I'd ever hit 1,000 subscribers. It's a goal I didn't think I'd get to. And I'm super happy of all the support and all, you know, you guys liking my teams, you know, my videos, you guys liking the content, you guys enjoying all that. So I appreciate all the support. Why doesn't Chet fit with the Magic? I think Chet isn't a bad fit with the Magic. I think any of those three guys are probably pretty decent fits there. But for me, because they already have Wendell Carter, I know Chet's going to be better than Wendell. But just honestly, I think the bigger position of need to me is probably one of the forward spots. I think Chet's probably going to play a little bit of center. And honestly, they've drafted for length in the past, and because it didn't work out with Mo Bamba, and he was such a project at the time, I think they're going to be a little scared of Chet. I think teams are a little worried about the size, the weight of Chet Holmgren. I think they are concerned about how that's going. But at the same time, I think Chet would be a good selection as well. Is a really good rim protector and would fit there. But for me, I just like the idea of the Magic getting a primary scorer. The biggest thing that they need for me is a guy who you can give the ball to, and he can be your primary scorer. He can go get you a bucket whenever you need one. And I think that it really is. I think that's Paolo Banchero. I think he's the best number one in this draft class. I think he's the best number one scorer, and I think he's going to be that from day one. So I think Paolo's the move at 1 for the Magic just because of their current roster. And we just hit 991. Yeah, one more sub. Let's go. We hype. But hey, let's get back into the mock. We had the little break. Let's get back into it. You guys can feel free to ask me any questions throughout the time we have here. If you're interested in anything, if you don't like any of the picks, if you have a question about what I'm talking about, always feel free to let me know. And the Hawks are on the clock at pick number 16. I think one of the bigger needs from them is a backup point guard behind Trae Young. But even more than that, I think they need a good defender. And I'm looking at guys throughout here, and there's no fits that are perfect for the Hawks, I don't think, honestly. But there are some guys that I like. And for me, I know some people don't like him because of the age, because he's older. I'm going to go Ochai Agbaji out of Kansas. I think... Can I scroll to the top of the board? Yeah, I was getting there. I'm at the top that I got here. But, again, I think Agbaji is the pick out of Kansas. I just really like his defensive effort, his offensive ability. Agbaji can shoot the three ball. He can drive a little bit. He's not going to be a great, kind of offensive initiator for himself, but I think he can score for himself. And I think that's something that we're going to recognize with Agbaji, is that he can go and get his own shot if he wants to, and he's going to play defense. I think the biggest Hawks need is a defender next to Trae in the backcourt. They have Bogdan right now. They also have Kevin Huerter, but neither of them are really plus defenders. So I'm going to go Agbaji here at pick number 16. All right. Question in the chat. Do you think the Rockets could come out with the best player in the draft because they don't have the pressure of actually picking one or two? And that's something psychologically I think is really interesting, because the first two guys are going to probably really overthink the pick, right? Honestly, because this is really a three-player draft. There's three guys at the top. I think there's another three after that are really like the top six, and then there's a really good drop-off. But I think realistically, I think you could be right. Just because the Rockets don't have that pressure. Whoever's available at three out of those three guys, Chet, Jabari, or Paolo, they're going to pick them. Realistically, they're going to choose whoever's left out of those three. And I think that relieves some pressure, and I think that they can be really happy with their pick. Even if it's not the best player, like, they can be happy with whoever they get, because I think he's going to be really solid. I think Paolo is probably going to be the guy that's available there. He's not the best fit on the team because they already have Jalen, and I don't know if those two primary scorers are perfect next to each other. But I still think that whoever they get, whether it be Chet, Jabari, or Paolo, the Rockets have come away with a really good pick there. So I had them go Jabari Smith with the third overall pick, and they have KPJ and Jalen in the backcourt, as well as Alperen Sengun as their center of the future, in my opinion. So for me, I think the move here is getting a small forward, and that leaves us with a couple different guys. Whether it's Ousmane Dieng out of, I believe, France is where he's from originally. I think Wesley is interesting as a scoring guard, can play a little bit of the three as well. EJ Liddell is an undersized defender, but is just really that guy defensively, and I think that's really who it comes down to here. I think those are the guys that are probably going to be in contention. And Ousmane Dieng is a little bit of a project. This Rockets team is young. They don't have, they have some good young talent, and I think they want to continue to build around that. I'm going to go EJ Liddell, a player I think is ready right now to come in and make an impact. This hurts the Bulls, who are picking right after them, I think, because I've mocked him to the Bulls in almost every single mock draft I've done, just because I think EJ Liddell is a really good fit in Chicago, but averaged, I believe, over 2 blocks a game this year for Ohio State. As a defender, at his size, 6'7", reads shots really, really well, can guard the 1 through 5. He's a really good fighter defensively. Reminds me a lot of PJ Washington, and his athletic ability, his ability to shoot the ball and play defense. And I think as well as like a young Paul Millsap and his ability to hit the mid-range too. I think Liddell, he's a guy who went back to college for his junior year because he wanted to improve his shooting and his defensive ability, and he did both of those things tremendously. And I think for the Rockets here, they need some defenders. They have some great offensive guys, and I think a versatile defender here in Liddell, who's ready to play right now, is a great fit for the Rockets here at pick number 17. The Bulls are on the clock at 18, and they're an interesting team. They really are, because we don't really know what they're going to be next year. We just don't, because Zach LaVine is a free agent. It looks like he might end up leaving. It really does look like Zach LaVine might end up leaving in free agency, which is not something a lot of us really thought would happen. But either way, I don't think guard is the move because they have DeMar, Caruso, Lonzo Ball, Javonte Green. So in my opinion, it's still probably not going to be a guard. I think the biggest thing is probably forward depth. I think forward depth is pretty easily the biggest need here for Chicago. So he's slipped a little bit. I think he's the best international prospect. I'm going to go Ousmane Dieng out of the New Zealand Breakers and France. It just has a lot of defensive upside. I've seen some Brandon Ingram comparisons because he can create his own space. He can get his shot off, and the length as well. I think people like to compare it to Brandon Ingram. I don't think he's going to be that level of player offensively, but he has a pretty good vision of the court as well as projecting as a good defender. So I like him as a project kind of pick here for the Bulls at 18. All right, the Minnesota Timberwolves are on the clock with pick number 19. And this is interesting because they were really good this year. Like, the Timberwolves were surprisingly really good this year. And there are, like, a few different directions they could go. I don't think they have to go necessarily one way or the other. I think there's realistically multiple different directions I could see them going. And a lot of it comes down to whether or not they want to keep D'Lo. I've seen some speculation that they're going to trade D'Angelo Russell this offseason. And maybe they think about moving D'Lo off the team, which would be crazy to do. Like, that, it would probably really upset Karl Anthony Towns because he brought him there as one of his best friends. But even if that's true, I think Cat should value winning more than he should playing with his buddies, just realistically. And I think Anthony Edwards and D'Lo kind of clash a little bit. So if they want to move on from D'Lo, I would understand the idea. And I would think about doing that, just because I think it opens up a lot more for Edwards. But either way, I think the biggest weakness right now is kind of the forwards. Edwards probably projects as a long-term 2. They have McDaniels, they have Jared Vanderbilt, and while those guys are okay, they're just not phenomenal. Like, if you get what I'm saying there. I just don't think they're great players. And ESPN's mock draft here is really weird in the way they rank players. But I don't know, man. I think these rankings are garbage, by the way. But because there's a guy I'm looking at that I kind of want to go because he's rising up boards. But I don't know if it's too early. And I'm going to do it because they're good enough right now. If you looked at Bleacher Report's kind of rankings earlier today, they had this guy in their top 20. For the Minnesota Timberwolves, I'm going to go Jake LaRavia out of Wake Forest. Performed, I believe, the best in the whole draft combine at the star shooting drill. Projects as a really high upside shooter. But the best thing that people can say around him is that he really makes his teammates better. He sees the floor well, he can pass the ball, he can rebound, and he can shoot. So I think he has some upside, and I really like LaRavia here at 19 for the Timberwolves. And this is his first time making it into my first round. All right, that might be a little crazy to some people, but I like that pick still. I'm going to stand by that pick. For the San Antonio Spurs, with their first pick at number 9, I had them going with A.J. Griffin, the shooter, the sniper out of Duke. So I think here it really makes a lot of sense to go back up center or even, try to find another kind of wing type guy. I don't like the idea of going a point guard, so Ty and Chandler are both off the board here for me. I wouldn't really like to go either of them. I don't think makes a ton of sense. So I think you're looking at a few different guys here. Beauchamp is really a forward realistically. I think Jovic is a guy that could go here. Kendall Brown is interesting. Bryce McGowens can shoot the rock a little bit, can play some offense. But I don't know who I want to go here, honestly. There are multiple different guys I could go. I don't want to go Beauchamp here. Realistically, I just don't think is a great fit. I'm going to go back up center. I'm going to go Walker Kessler out of Auburn. Some people have Walker slipping out of the first round just because he's not very quick laterally. He's going to get beat side to side a lot of times. He just is. He's just not really fast that way, and that's fine. I mean, like, He was the defensive player of the year in college for a reason. Like, he wasn't just like, oh, like, let's make this guy defensive player of the year. Like, that's not how it is. But Lakers do have no picks. That's true. Walker Kessler here for the Spurs, I think, is the fit as a guy who can play defense, who can not score a ton, but he's going to be a good defender and good rebounder. All right, the Denver Nuggets are on the clock with pick number 21. And there's a few things that I want to do here, but the biggest thing to me is replacing Will Barton in the starting lineup. I just don't love him as a long-term starter at the shooting guard spot for them. I just don't think it's super ideal, so that would be the biggest thing. Lakers have no picks, and they're old. Thank you for rubbing that in. I really do appreciate that. Always love when my viewers shit on my favorite team. But yeah, let's get back into it. I'm just playing with you, bro. I think Blake Wesley is an interesting option here, but he's so very similar to Bones Highland that I don't really want to go with Wesley here, just because I think the similarity to Highland isn't something that I don't need two of those guys on my team, so I'm not going to go with him. I'm going to go with Bryce McGowens out of Nebraska. He's a guy that projects as a high upside offensive player. I've seen a lot of comparisons to Zach LaVine offensively without the burst that Zach LaVine has, and I think that's a good comparison. I really do. I like Bryce McGowens there to the Nuggets at 21 as a high upside scorer and shooter of the basketball. Just a friendly reminder, if you're watching and you haven't subscribed, please do so. We're on the road to 1K, so I really appreciate that. All right, the Grizzlies are on the clock with pick number 22. Pick number 22. Who are my top 5 teams to watch in the draft? I think the biggest teams that are going to have really good draft nights, I think Oklahoma City with 2 picks are really, really interesting. I think that they might even have 3 picks. I think they have 30 as well. I think the Thunder can really improve their team. They can really improve the front court there. The Rockets have multiple picks, and I think they'll do a good job with those. I think the Hornets are a team to watch to trade up. With picks 13 and 15, I think we could see them package those in a deal to move up the draft to get the player they really want, whether that's Jalen Duren or even a guy like AJ Griffin. But I think Jalen Duren would be a great fit for the Hornets if they wanted to move up. I think the Spurs will have a very important draft just because of their multiple picks. They're a young team. And honestly, I think you got to watch the Blazers and Kings just because I think both of those teams are interested in trading out of their picks. So if you like NBA trades, watch the Blazers pick and watch the Kings pick because I think those are 2 of the most likely to be on the move. Again, so my 5 to watch, I guess, would probably be Blazers, Kings, Hornets because I think they could move those 2 picks. I'm going to go with the Thunder because of their 3 picks, and I'm going to go with the Rockets because of their 2 picks that I think are going to be very important for them as well. Those would be my 5 teams to watch. I think also the Spurs would be a good 6 team to watch, but those are my 5. So back to the drafting, the Grizzlies are here at pick number 22, and they don't have a ton of needs. I think that they could try to package for a star this offseason. I know they've really looked into Bradley Beal, and I think that they could do that with a pick something around, like Dylan Brooks, Steven Adams, and then like another good young player. But I don't necessarily know what they need here because they have good big man depth. For me, I'm going to go backup point guard just because I think Tyus Jones is a guy that's likely to leave in free agency. So I think that backup point guard is really the move here. And a guy that reminds me a lot of Tyus Jones is Ty Washington out of Kentucky. I think he can come in, be that confident passer and leader of your offense off the bench right away. Has a really good mid-range shot. He hasn't really extended his range to three-point range like just yet. So right now for me, it's more kind of mid-range oriented, kind of like how Chris Paul, Kyle Lowry play game. Think about that when you're thinking about Ty Washington. Projects as a decent defender, 6'4", has pretty good length as well. So I think Ty is a good fit off the bench here as the backup point guard for the Grizzlies. All right, the Nets are on the clock at 23, and for me, I don't think they have any like really huge needs here that they like need to address badly. But the biggest thing to me is center. And when I'm thinking center at this point, I'm thinking Christian Koloko. I know he's listed as a power forward, but realistically to me, he's going to be a center. He's going to be a center in the NBA. But the big thing that I was really excited about in this year's combine is that he was actually one of the better shooters in the star drill as well. Like, he shot really well as a star drill shooter, and I was really impressed with how Koloko did. If he can spread out his range, I think that's going to alleviate any concerns about him and is going to be really, really huge. So I think Koloko, if he can space the floor and prove that, I think he'll move up even more. And I just really like the idea of him in Brooklyn. All right, just thought I would notice as well, we are at 992 subscribers, only 8 away from 1,000. Thank you again for subscribing. But the Milwaukee Bucks on the clock here at 24, and this is a spot consistently I have mocked either a guy who I think can be a shooting guard starting wise for them long term, or a backup point guard, and a guy that slipped a little bit for me but is the best player on the board in my opinion, and ESPN's opinion I guess right now, is Kennedy Chandler. Only measured 6 foot at the combine. Even with his shoes, I think he was like 6'1". He was really short. He just is not a tall player. And obviously you have some concerns about that defensively. But with how good the Bucks are defensively, I think I'm just going to let that slide. Honestly, I think I'm going to ignore it and I'm going to let that slide. I'm going to do that. So I think Kennedy Chandler, backup point guard here. He's been compared to Darius Garland and Tyrese Maxey in his ability to be shifty, to get by defenders, and to, weave in and out of the offense to get his own bucket. I think he can also create for others a little bit. Nice scoring, playmaking piece off the bench here for Milwaukee. I honestly like his fit here a lot. And yeah, European players do tend to take time to adjust to the NBA, Joseph, and that's why I haven't had a ton of them going. Like, as of right now, I really like Hugo Bassan, his confidence, his ability to shoot the ball, but he's not going to be a great defender. Nikola Jovic as well just projects as not a very good defender for, at the NBA level, although the Gallinari comparison, I think, for Jovic is pretty good. I think Kamagate is a guy that might be kind of more ready right now as a European guy to come out and play, just because he's so big physically. He's a dominant, kind of imposing presence. So I think he's a guy that could go first. I think Jovic could go first. I think Bassan could go first. But who knows? But I'm actually going to take one here. I think the Spurs are a team that I always really like to project European guys to because of their history of having European guys out there. And I think the best one on the board to me right now is Jovic. I would give them Kamagate, honestly, just because of all the things I just said. But they have already Walker Kessler. I had them draft as their future backup center, so I just can't go Kamagate here. I'm going to go Jovic, a guy who can pass the ball really well, can create his own shot, is going to be more in the mid-range than the three-point, doesn't have a lot of offensive moves, he's not going to burn you, he doesn't have a really great handle either, but just kind of like Gallinari, he's going to just put the ball in the basket. You wouldn't necessarily always expect it, but that's just what he's going to do, and he's going to be good at it. He's going to be a decent scorer right away. I think he's going to put up somewhere from 10 to 12 points a night almost immediately, but he's going to get torched defensively. But I like the Spurs' defensive upside, so I'm not too concerned about it. All right, the Dallas Mavericks are on the clock at pick number 26. And for me, they do need a center badly. They do. But they also need some scoring help alongside Luka. Like, he just doesn't get the scoring help I think he needs. And I love Blake Wesley. I saw Bleacher Report today, had him ranked as in the 30s, which is ridiculous. Every other mock draft you watch has him as a top 20 guy. I think Blake Wesley projects as a top 20 guy just because of his scoring upside. His handles are really, really good. He can maneuver off of screens. He can shoot the three off the dribble or off the catch. I really like Blake Wesley as a guy that flashed a little bit of point guard upside, but right now is probably a shooting guard. But I think Wesley is a guy that can help create next to Luka and score a little bit, and that'll really help Luka Doncic and the Mavs. All right, another time to take one of my, shameless breaks to promote you to subscribe to the channel, because we are only 8 away from 1,000, where I can be monetized on YouTube, and it's just be such a dream come true. I really appreciate all the support, guys. We're almost done with the mock. We have, 4 picks left, and I don't know if I'll hang on a little bit after that. I might, but we're going to talk about all that. Joseph says in the chat, not saying the Lakers are old, but they used to get on bar fights with Romans. You know, I'm no rocket scientist, Joseph, myself, but that does kind of sound like you're saying they're old. That is something. That is something. You take that joke offline, Joseph. Honestly, that was creative, and I like the creativity on the jokes to bash my team. But I do appreciate some banter. I do appreciate banter. But let's get into it. Let's talk about pick number 27, the Miami Heat are on the clock. And I think that they're so good right now, honestly. Like, they've been really good throughout the playoffs and throughout this NBA season, that I think that they can just go really high upside. I really do think that with Miami. I think that they can go upside. And this is a guy that some people have slipping out of the first round, but I really like him as a scoring guy, as a guy who can get his own shot, who can shoot from 3 with confidence. His efficiency was just bad. Like, honestly, in the G League this year, his efficiency wasn't good, but was once viewed as a top 10 pick in this year's class. And to me, that's Jaden Hardy. I think Jaden Hardy off the bench with Tyler Hero has the potential to create one of the most dynamic scoring backcourts off the bench we've seen ever. Like, I think those two could be dominant offensively off the bench, and it would be super, super fun to watch together. And I think that that's really like the high upside thing here, and something I'm really interested in watching. So I want to go Hardy at pick number 27. Warriors are on the clock with pick number 28, and there's not a ton of things they need, honestly. They have a lot of different things, but for me, anyways, I'm going to go backup point guard. I'm not a huge Damian Lee guy. I don't think Damian Lee should be getting a ton of minutes. I just don't think Damian Lee is very, very good. Realistically, I don't love having him on the floor. So we're going to look at point guards here. Dalen Terry, not the move. Hugo Bassan, not the move. Gio Montero, not the move. But a guy that today was just viewed as the first time in the first round of Bleacher Report's top 30 prospects, and it is Andrew Nembhard out of Gonzaga. I think the stream is having some errors realistically. That's not good, but we're gonna try to power through it. We just are. I don't know why it's struggling like that. I could plug into Ethernet. That's really the best thing I can do. But yeah, so I'm gonna go Nembhard for the Warriors here. I really like Nembhard a lot. And he is a guy that this year wasn't like the best player in Gonzaga. Wasn't even probably the second best player in Gonzaga. I don't think Chet Holmgren was necessarily the best player in Gonzaga either. But for me, I think realistically, I think Chet and Timmy were the two best guys in Gonzaga. So they can get him, they can get Nembhard here, who wasn't a dominant guy in college, but at the Combine just looked like basically one of the best scorers there. And I was really, really impressed with how he looked at the Combine. I'm going to go Nembhard here at pick number 50. Not 50, sorry, that's where they had him because they're dumb. At pick number 28. At 29, the Grizzlies are on the clock. I'm sure the video quality right now is garbage, and I apologize for that. I don't know why that's happening. But the Grizzlies are on the clock at pick number 29. And I had them go backup point guard already. So I'm going to go with the springy wing defender and scorer, can throw down some lobs, can do a lot of different things for an offense. I'm going to go with Kendall Brown out of Baylor. I like Kendall Brown. He's slipping in my big boards. Now he's slipping in my mock drafts as well, which I feel a little bit about badly for Kendall Brown. But he's just a guy that was really solid. Honestly, he was really solid at Baylor, could defend a lot of different positions, and could, be super athletic, finish well above the rim, block some shots here and there, get out in passing lanes. And I just really like that for Kendall Brown. And I think he projects as a guy who can be a good kind of spot offensive guy and defensive player. I've seen some Grant Williams comparisons, and I think with how well Grant Williams has been doing, I think that helps him a lot. He also, I think he had the highest standing vert at this year's combine. At least it was one of the highest verticals there, and I was really impressed with that. So I think Kendall Brown here is the pick at 29. All right, the Thunder on the clock. They already took Chet and Sohan to fill kind of their front court, and I think front court is probably still the move, realistically. But I'm going to go with the best athlete, the highest upside guy, a guy that I think deserves to be a first-round pick, and that is Turquoise Smith out of NC State. Reminds me a little bit of Dennis Smith Jr. They're both from NC State. But outside of that, very athletic. I think he only weighs like 165 pounds. The biggest thing against Turquoise Smith is going to be his ability to, defend people, because it's going to be a concern. It's going to be kind of concerning right away, and I think that's something to keep in mind. So I really like Turquavion, and I think he'll be a good NBA player. He can shoot the ball a little bit. He shot really well on catch and shoot this year, as well as off the dribble. So getting Turquavion there next to the guys they have, I think is the highest upside play. And that is the end of the mock draft today, little almost hour-long stream. And just to recap the whole mock, Paolo Banchero to the Magic at 1, Chet at 2 to the Thunder. The Rockets go Jabari Smith Jr. at 3. The Kings go Keegan Murray out of Iowa at pick number 4. Jaden Ivey goes number 5 to the Pistons. Shaedon Sharpe falls a little bit, goes number 6 to the Pacers. The Blazers go Benedict Mathurin at 7. Johnny Davis, the high upside scorer, at 8 to the Pelicans. The shooter, A.J. Griffin, to the Spurs at 9. Dyson Daniels to the needy point guard team, Washington at 10. Jalen Duren goes to the Knicks at 11. Sohan to the Thunder at 12. Mark Williams to the Hornets at 13. Malachi Branham to the Cavs at 14. Tari Eason to the Hornets at 15. The Hornets get 2 good defenders. And then at 16, I have Agbaji to the Hawks. At 17, Liddell to the Rockets. Zhang to the Bulls at 18. 19, the Timberwolves go with Jake LaRavia. Walker Kessler to the Spurs at 20. Bryce McGowan's to the Nuggets at 21. High upside pick there. 22, the Grizzlies go Ty. Christian Koloko to the Nets at 23. Kennedy Chandler to the Bucks at 24 to take George Hill's spot. Nikola Jovic to the Spurs at 25. Blake Wesley, a good scoring option next to Luka at pick number 26. Jaden Hardy, the high upside inefficient scorer out of the G League, to the Heat at 27. 28, the Warriors go with a risky kind of pick. A guy who was really, really good at the Combine, was lighting it up, looked dominant in scrimmages. Andrew Nembhard to be their backup point guard at 28. Kendall Brown at 29 to the Grizzlies. And at pick number 30, I have... Who do I have here? I can't even see it. It won't let me scroll down anymore. I have Turquavion Smith to the Thunder at pick number 30. I hope you guys really enjoyed today's mock draft. I really enjoyed doing it live. I really like the interaction with some of you guys. I think that's super fun, and I think it's really good to help grow the channel and to help you guys be able to ask me questions and just be able to interact with me. I think that's something that's really great. So I'm gonna stay on for a couple minutes. Try to take any questions if you guys have them about the channel, about the growth, about the journey, about any suggestions you should try to take. But I think I'm going to stay on till about midnight, so if you guys have any questions, let me know. But I really enjoyed this. I think it was really good, and I was happy to do it, and I hope you guys really enjoyed the stream as well. So if you have any questions, be sure to ask them now. If you're not subscribed, be sure to do that, because that means a lot to me, and I would be really happy for that. So, yeah, that's what I got. Yeah. Anybody with any questions? I wish I had another water in here, guys. It's hot. It's hot up here. I'm sure you could tell that by me taking my hat off multiple different times in the video. Wasn't the most professional video you've ever seen, probably, but I really enjoy making mock drafts. I hope you really enjoy the content. I really enjoy making it, and I think it'll be a great thing to give a college student a little bit of money while he's in college, you know. Can't really work when I'm at school, so I really appreciate any support you guys have. But yeah, it looks like there's no questions rolling in, no little Q&A section. So I'm going to say that I appreciate you guys. I thank you for watching, and I think I'm going to end the stream for today. So again, thank you guys for a good stream, a good mock draft. I really enjoyed today. Have a great rest of your night. That's it for me.